Oh, hello everyone. It's Susie here from Esoteric Trading Solutions. I hope you're all well. I hope you're being kind to yourself, being kind to your friends, being kind to your family, being kind to your animals, your putty cats, your dogs, any animal, and just being kind to people in the world to make this a better place. And honestly, I really mean that, because last week I had two friends that I know, both in their early 50s, one woman and one guy, and basically they suicided, both of them. And I've known a lot of people to suicide. So I guess that's why when I say these things, I generally mean it. I don't take any prisoners. When people are nasty or they're horrible on YouTube or anywhere else, I just seriously delete them and report them, because life is really hard. And, you know, the amount of suicides I've heard in my life just been unbelievable. But anyway, look, I don't want to start off on that note. So just please do look after yourselves, and I generally mean please look after your family and friends and your animals and everything around you, the environment, and you know, just people you don't even know, just to make this better. So one of my clients, he's a lovely man. His name's Matthew. Oops, let me just get this right. I'm absolutely hopeless with this stuff. Seriously, I'm no guru when it comes to technology, that's for sure. A product of my generation, I'd say. Not everyone's like me, that's for sure, when it comes to this sort of stuff. Let me just fix this up. Bear with me for a minute. Oh, that's better. One of my clients, Matthew, is a lovely, lovely man. He adopted this beautiful dog called a Tallulah, and I promised him I'd put it up on YouTube. And before Matthew started looking after her, she was just terrible and astray. So thank you, Matthew, for that. That's just a lovely, lovely thing to do, man. Thank you. So let's just get into this. This might be a bit longer than normal. So just the thing today is it's going to be Ripple and XRP news. And basically it's only over a month, which is incredible. And every time we do something on XRP and Ripple, which are now called RippleNet, the news is just mind-blowing to me. It just makes me even more overawed with what they're doing, seriously. Now, we all know about MoneyGram, and we know that essentially MoneyGram are doing everything through RippleNet, and you know that corridor is getting bigger and bigger in terms of the US to the Mexican corridor, particularly. But also they announced something with the new debit card deposit service with Visa as well, and they'll certainly be using that connection with RippleNet to clear that as well. So that's a great story. And we also know that when MoneyGram went onto the exchange, you know, their share price got up to about $6. It's come back a bit, but certainly for MoneyGram, going forward, that's going to reduce their costs quite substantially and give them a competitive advantage compared to any other foreign currency provider out there. And I tell you, I'd be really worried if I was Western Union or someone like that, because MoneyGram can actually cut their costs by 80%. And what I want to make clear, and I don't think people understand this, the utility of XRP. XRP works interoperable between foreign currency and XRP being the bridging currency. Okay, and I'm going to make that a little bit clearer as we go on, but that's the utility of XRP and RippleNet. So it's basically interoperable within the operations of the FX system, as well as XRP as a currency and a funding tool. So I think that's really important to remember. And going forward, I'll tell you about a YouTube that Brianne Madigan was on, who's the global head of Ripple, head of global markets. And I think she had some pretty important things to say, which I'll focus on as well, which I thought was great. Also, Swift were out there saying that, you know, crypto goes up and down like a yo-yo. And again, they're just trying to get people, you know, to be worried about using cryptocurrency. But, you know, the reality is that may not be the case. As you know, foreign currency can be much more volatile than cryptocurrency per se, particularly if the foreign currency is linked to a government that's going broke. And, you know, we see like something like, you know, Venezuela or, you know, Argentina, where they've gone completely broke, where the currency is worthless, or even where, you know, if we look at Zimbabwe, for example, which used to be called Rhodesia and used to be the, you know, the bread basket of Africa, the fruit basket of Africa. Now that currency is worth nothing now. So when you compare it to those currencies that have been completely mismanaged because of government mismanagement of balance sheets and corruption, certainly there's a case to say that foreign currency could be more extremely, going up and down or completely down compared to, say, cryptocurrency if it has utility, for example. So also there was a really good interview, and I don't know whether people caught this, with Brad Garlinghouse with Julia Chatley. I thought that was a particularly good interview, particularly. And, if you catch that, please do look at that, because I thought it was very, very well done, and it got a lot of mileage for Ripple and Brad Garlinghouse. I thought it was a very good interview indeed. So let's just move along, because there is a bit here, and I always tend to go over time as well. So looking at the next slide, again, we had this fellow from Twitter, thank you very much, Exodus. He basically says that, essentially, Ripple and its ecosystem is pretty amazing, okay? And pretty much even, Chris Larson basically said that within 5 to 10 years, people won't even know that they're using, RippleNet or even XRP for that matter. And I think that is an absolute truth in itself, an absolute truth. In my mind, and I will say this again, XRP and RippleNet are a once-in-a-lifetime thing. They basically can convert cross-border payments back to cash, within 3 to 5 seconds. Now, if you did that through SWIFT, again, if you're going from US dollars to Mexican peso, God knows how long it's going to take you to get your cash, which could take up to 10 days minimum, okay, 10 working days minimum, for example. So there's another thing that I wanted to quote here, and I thought this was a particularly good article by Christopher Orton. He wrote this article here, this link, and he basically believes, and I believe the same thing, that this is a once of a lifetime thing with digital assets in human history. That XRP is a decentralized digital asset created in 2004, and honestly, what it's trying to do in terms of utility is just incredible. The RippleNet can basically convert any currency, any commodity, can maintain maximum security. It can even convert non-commodities or hold non-commodities on its ledger. You can build on top of that ledger. It has smart contracts. It has all sorts of things. So it's pretty amazing what it can do. And honestly, like this fellow says, XRP will lead the way in fintech world and future digital stores of value. And I do believe that. He goes in to define the value of money. And, money should be a medium of exchange, but also should maintain its level of value, but also a store of value, but also should be deeply liquid. And I tend to believe that as well. And that's coupled with what Brad Garlinghouse said, about a year ago or something, that, we can do emails directly to each other instantly. As Brad Garlinghouse said, we can stream videos from space, the space station, but we cannot have international payments being converted to cash instantly. We just can't do it, and everything else we can do in the world, it just seems crazy, absolutely crazy. And I tend to agree with Brad Garlinghouse on that one. Another thing at the moment is the XRP Community Fund is being registered in Netherlands, and I'm actually in Netherlands at the moment, in Amsterdam, and it's a lot of fun here, a lot going on. And this XRP Community Fund is being officially registered in the Netherlands, and it's basically got 8 board members, and there's some pretty well-known members on this. And I've actually met Vit Savin, who's a lovely guy, and I'm going to catch up with him for a meeting to find out a bit more about what's going on with Ripple and RippleNet and the like. And essentially, they're looking to really strive to introduce more developers into its network, and by ensuring financing of development tools, plugs and dApps and other crucial domains. Now, there's a lot going on in the Netherlands at the moment. You're probably aware that obviously with this Brexit, a lot of the banks in the UK have no idea what's going on, and a lot of banks in the UK have been making their head office in the Netherlands. Now, just recently, last year in October 2018, the Commonwealth Bank of Australia, which is is the largest bank in Australia, have decided to make their head office in the Netherlands, and they've effectively moved 40 people over from London, and they're pretty much making their head office in the Netherlands as well. And it so happens that the Commonwealth Bank of Australia has been using Ripple's technology for a long time, and they have been using XRP internally for a long time, since 2014. Also, what's notable about that is the Commonwealth Bank of Australia is the biggest foreign exchange trader in Australia, and they have an incredible amount of global flows globally. and also that they're one of the most, like the Australian banks, and one of the most profitable banks in the world. Now, our banks in Australia, there's 4 major banks. They earn something like $15 billion a year, $15 billion, and they're one of the most profitable banks in the world, and they still have a fairly high credit rating of AA minus, and very, very, very stable indeed. So I think that's noteworthy, and I think that's worth mentioning definitely. So it's interesting that this has been opened in the Netherlands, but there is a lot going on in Amsterdam at the moment, particularly. Even Mitsubishi UFG has basically set up the European head office in Amsterdam as well. So there's a lot going on with the Bank of European Settlements, but also with the the ECB, the European Central Bank. Okay, so there's a lot going on there. Now, it just so happens also on top of that, you've got basically the International Monetary Fund lady basically moving as the director, the head of the European Central Bank, taking over from Mario Draghi. Okay, now that's Christine Lagarde, and that lady is incredibly talented, and she's very, very pro cryptocurrency, but not all cryptocurrency. She's very, very pro Ripple, its technology, and obviously XRP and what it can do. Okay, if you remember rightly, I mentioned this ages ago about the special drawing rights. She was working for the International Monetary Fund, and the International Monetary Fund will issue special drawing rights like a bond, and they'll issue it to member nations who actually fund those drawing rights, buy those drawing rights, say like the US or, Japan or someone, and they'll hold those drawing rights and give the International Monetary Fund money so they can actually lend that money out to poor nations. Now, the problem with the International Monetary Fund is because poor nations had to go through so many hoops in terms of legislation, documentation, filling out all forms, and also the G7 group that literally control where that money's going will always state stipulation for where that money should be used. And often it doesn't work for the poorer countries out there because, say, for example, the US has a lot of control over, how the drawing rights get spent. They'll effectively tell the country what they can do in terms of their economic policy and whatnot, or their trade decisions. And often what happens is the countries that actually need the money don't actually get the money. So with XRP, it makes it very, very easy to get money and funding and liquidity through XRP, but it's very difficult to do it through foreign currency when you've got lenders out there like the US trying to obviously state to the borrower, you need to abide by certain rules and regulations in terms of your balance sheet. And so often it doesn't happen. And often, the agreements like multilateral, trade agreements, or it could be political or whatever, are just so complex and so convoluted that a deal doesn't get there and the poor country doesn't get any money at all. Okay, so really, really important to remember that. Just in terms of Christine Lagarde, who, as I said, is starting with the International Monetary Fund on, I think it's about the 11th of November, but I'll mention that as we go forward here as well, okay? So number 9, again, MoneyGram, we saw that the share price went up quite a lot. And then we also, heard that CoinField had a mysterious game-changing XRP project, and we know they're great supporters of XRP, okay? Another thing, Brad Garlinghouse was addressing the so-called XRP dumping, which, I will talk to as well, which is just ridiculous in itself, to be honest with you, because he's got like 220 clients or 250 clients, which are, these clients aren't just one client, they're a network of clients. So say, for example, MoneyGram is not just one client, it's one client to Ripple, but MoneyGram could have 190 or 200 different types of businesses. Over the world, all over the world, it's got 190. It's at 198 different countries, for example. They could put on another client who has a network of different clients, and that's the smart thing that Ripple's doing. Okay, the sales force is going after a client that has a network of clients, and that's what I used to do when you want to increase your sales and increase your growth fast. You just don't go after one client. You go after a client that controls, a number of clients, okay, that has a book of clients. And that's just smart, really, really smart, okay? So Brad Garlinghouse has a meeting in Washington on this date here, and he, is also going to address the XRP dumping. But we will talk about that because it seems a bit ridiculous, because certainly in the fiat markets, you're not allowed to do it. if you dump anything in terms of equity markets or fixed interest or whatever in front of your clients or over and above your clients, it's seen front running, and you're not allowed to do it. You can actually be, it can be deemed as being fraudulent. Not only that, it's bad for customer business, but it also can be called insider trading. Okay, so if you do anything over and above what your clients are doing, say for example you were selling them a bond or something, and then you start dumping your own bonds, akin to dumping XRP, you start dumping your own bonds in front of your client. The client's basically, it's going to cause very bad business between you and the client, okay? Number one, the client could sue you, okay? That's number two. Number three, in other markets, it's seen as front running or insider trading, and it's seen by the SEC as being illegal, okay? So the idea that there's, XRP supporters supposedly that believe that Ripple is selling XRP over and above its retail client base, just to me is just absolutely ridiculous. Now, XRP, as we know, has escrow, but that escrow, they'll release so much escrow in a month, and if it doesn't get picked up by the wholesale client, that residual of XRP goes back to escrow. Okay, it doesn't go on the market for dumping. Also, when they sell XRP to a large client, say a large client took 30 million, Ripple will state that the client has to hold that XRP for a certain amount of time, and there will be a lockup, okay, to that XRP. So they're very cognizant of the fact that they don't want big clients dumping XRP and destroying the price of XRP, okay? So the fact is, in other markets, you're not allowed to do it, and I don't believe Ripple's too professional to do it in this market, okay? Even though the cryptocurrency market is not regulated, and it needs regulation big time. They are just way too professional. Not only that, they run huge amounts of clients, not just 220 or 250 clients. If you multiply it by the number of clients they touch, because their client, one client might, like MoneyGram, might have 100, 200, 300 clients, you've got to multiply 220 or 250 by how many clients all their clients have, if you understand what I'm saying. So it's a bigger story than just, 250 to 220 clients, okay? If Ripple were doing something like that against their clients, you can't tell me that the client wouldn't do something. Certainly in America and certainly in Australia, it's becoming a very litigious society where people will just sue you for looking at you, right? And that's just the way it is, and, as far as I'm concerned, Ripple are extremely, extremely professional, and they just would not do that. That's a fact. And I'll prove that to you as well as we go forward. All right, so let's go to the next slide. Okay, so basically, again, this Ripple thing is just a joke as such. And, for the manipulation of the stock, which is just crazy. Also, Ripple came out and said that they've basically done 50 million ledgers over their lifetime, which is a fabulous story, 50 million. And from my understanding, there's been no hacks, no bad actors, no security risk, and everything's been working, which is a lot more I can say about other cryptocurrencies out there. Actually, and as Brad Garlinghouse said, the majority of cryptocurrencies that we see, and I think it's, if you look at coin market cap, it says there's 2,900 cryptocurrencies. I've got to tell you, as Brad Garlinghouse says, 95 to 98% of those are not going to be around in the next 2 years, and I believe that as well. So literally every cryptocurrency I look at when I'm doing an investment review or a commission report, I take it from the view, this is a scam 95% of the time until my research can prove to me that it's not a scam. Okay, so you got to remember, if you're buying anything, 9 out of 10, it's going to be a scam. And that's a fact, because there's no technology, or it doesn't work, or it's not true. Now, the white papers are not audited. Okay, you've got to understand that, which means there's no regulation whatsoever in the US, as you know, and the white papers are not audited. So anyone can say anything. I could say anything. I could say, look, I'm doing technology next year. I'm going to patent something. I'm not going to show the open source because it's patent, but please give me 100 mil. Trust me, I'm your doctor. Give me 100 mil, and you've seen no financials from me, no budgeting, no marketing, no nothing. But all you've seen is a nice little pictorial glossy which is not a prospectus, okay, like in the bond market or like in the share market. And no one's on the hook. If they tell you the wrong thing because of no regulation, they're not on the hook. Yes, the SEC is coming down a bit, but they're not really, okay? Now, the thing is, in the bond market or the stock market or the FX or whatever, you would be put to jail and they'd throw away the key, okay? So I say again, buyer beware. There are just so many scams. And a lot of you people just invest in stuff. You're quite able to throw away, thousands and thousands of dollars. I mean, it's hard enough when the market's down, and we know that, we're losing money because the market's down. But you don't want to be losing money because you're actually investing in something that's going to go broke, okay? And a lot of these cryptocurrencies just aren't going to survive. They've got no business case whatsoever. No clients, no business case. And someone might say, but you expect the developers, they're doing it for nothing. Well, I tell you what, no one's going to do anything for nothing, over a time period. Developers aren't going to work for the next 4 to 5 years and update systems for nothing. And I can tell you that right now. But anyway, that's another side issue, okay? I always get into side issues. But number 15, CoinMe, they announced they're an ATM and block financial service, and they announced that they're going to be doing something with XRP as well, okay? And again, Christine Lagarde, as I mentioned, the head of the European Central Bank, on November the 1st, and it's funny because she actually leaves the IMF. She's already left it in September the 9th, and she starts here on the 1st, and that's the day after the UK is expected to leave the European Union, which is going to be very interesting indeed, I have to say. That's going to be incredibly interesting. Sell the pound, I think. So just want to take you through this in a fair amount of detail because I caught this YouTube, and I thought it was a very good one, and I thought it was quite insightful. And the lady's name was Brianne Madigan, and essentially she's the head of Ripple's Global Institutional Markets. And I'll just talk to exactly what she said there, which I thought was fascinating. So Brianne Madigan was at this fintech conference, and she basically started the conference obviously saying how the landscape of cryptocurrency has changed, and we're starting to get institutional players within that landscape. And she mentioned Fidelity, who have also got a trading desk, and they've got a custodian desk. Then she mentioned Amatrade, who have just gone into cryptocurrency futures, and Vanguard, who's looking at basically blockchain or cryptocurrency technology for their all their foreign currency flows and all their other types of flows. Also, obviously, cross remittance payments, but also mentioned things like Facebook's Libra and the back futures, and just how the institutional market is starting to get involved. But the biggest hurdle for the institutional market is regulation, and without regulation, it's going to be an absolute impediment to the institutional guys or girls coming into this market, which I agree, and I did a YouTube on that ages ago. Okay, so and she basically outlined some key things to the hurdles in terms of the institutional client base, which I agree with. And she said the hurdles are obviously lack of regulatory, clear regulatory framework in terms of cryptocurrency globally. Liquidity is an issue for all different types of cryptocurrencies, certainly not with XRP, but certainly other cryptocurrencies, there's no liquidity. There's no clear regulation, a lack of understanding of how to value cryptocurrency. There's storage and custodian issues. There's bad actors. People don't understand the user case for cryptocurrency, even at the institutional level. And why does it matter? And again, not all cryptocurrency are the same. And I absolutely agree with what this lady said. She's a very smart woman. She basically worked for Goldman Sachs for 15 years and for Block One for a number of years as well. So she's certainly got the background and knows her stuff very well. And it was very clear in terms of the YouTube that this lady really knows her stuff. And what she did say is Ripple pretty much focus with governments, and it's the right thing to do. They're not looking to replace foreign currency, but they're looking to coexist with foreign currency, which I thought was very important, and interoperability within foreign currency to make liquidity better, to reduce the cost of foreign currency, and to convert any foreign currency to cash with your domestic domicile currency. Okay, so in other words, if you get, Mexican peso and you want to convert it to US dollars, it's not going to take you 10 days to get your cash when you have US dollars and you can draw it down. It's going to take you 3 seconds, right? And I thought that was very interesting. She said that liquidity is paramount for XRP, and they're looking to find more and more corridors and more money market makers, which is no different to a dealer panel that you have in the bond market or even the equity market. Central funding authorities or, issuers will create a dealer panel where, that dealer panel will be a number of different banks that will create two-way markets in their security or in their issuance, whatever that might be. And that's pretty much what XRP is trying to do. And basically liquidity is defined as much volume as you can get, and two-way markets where the spread, the buy-sell spread is very tight indeed, okay? And that's defined as liquidity as well. So I thought that was quite interesting. She did say the biggest issue is working with the regulators in the US particularly, and she mentioned that the US are falling behind other countries, which I agree with. She mentioned Singapore and Switzerland, but look, there's many other countries, okay? There's Malta, there's Estonia, there's, Gibraltar. The list goes on and on and on, okay? She did say also with the US falling behind, for the risk of Ripple's risk is that they lose all their incredibly talented staff to overseas. Now, that could be a problem for everyone in the US if regulation's not sorted out sooner than later, okay? Brianne Madigan also said that the rules should be, flexible enough. They should be not in stone, and they should be principle-based rules, that are flexible enough to understand this new technology of cryptocurrency, okay? She said the regulators really need to come up with a clear regulation, otherwise they do run the risk of flight or talent going to other countries. And we've seen that with a number of cryptocurrencies, Binance being one of them and quite a few others, okay? Even though Binance is back in the US, their head office is in Malta, okay? So, and then she went on to say, and I thought this was really good, essentially XRP is the bridge, and to make this really clear for everyone, between fiat currency and cash. So it converts everything from fiat currency to cash of your own, of your domestic value, okay? So liquidity is the essence, and tight markets, they need to increase more corridors. And so they look for clients like MGI that, as I said, aren't just one client like MGI. They may be a number of 200 clients, for example. She also went on to say that XRP is a digital asset that eliminates the need for pre-funding currency accounts. And that's exactly right. Don't forget the Nostro account is the bank's account, okay? And because they don't know when foreign currency is going to settle, because of SWIFT, you don't know whether it's going to take 3 days or 10 or 15 days. They have to pre-fund that currency account. Now, she said without the banks having to pre-fund their Nostro account, it's estimated to be something like 10 trillion, right? Just 10 trillion in that alone. But we know the liquidity problem globally, as I said before in other YouTubes, is 224 trillion. 224 trillion, which is a real problem that XRP can fix with their 100 billion, which is nothing. I've got to tell you, 100 billion against 224 trillion. Come on, get real. Even against 10 trillion, you can work it out, right? So these people, Ripple, are very smart. She went on to say that the Ripple net has 150 nodes, and 7 of those nodes now are owned by Ripple, and they are decentralized. And we also know that CoinBenny announced later on in the month that they are one of the node owners for Ripple. Okay, so I did think that was a very good interview. Please look at it because it's very educational. And look, it just is this simple, right? MGI has a client that wants to sell US dollars and buy Mexican peso, and the client's in Mexico, okay? So they send that flow to Ripple. Ripple will then send it to the exchanges that it deals with, like a dealer panel. So they'll send the 100 mil to Coinbase. Coinbase will then sell US dollars and buy XRP and deliver that to Bitso in Mexico. By electronic transfer, or not electronic transfer, but electronic through the Ripple net, okay, very quickly. So Coinbase then is sitting effectively with US dollars, right? And basically they will sell XRP and buy Mexican peso, okay? And this is done at Bitso. And the Mexican peso is what the bank's client MGI wanted. Sorry, what MGI wanted. And essentially that will then go in the client's bank account. So just to say that again, MGI is Ripple's client. MGI's client wants to convert 100 million US to Mexican peso, and MGI's client sits in Mexico. So MGI will send 100 million to Ripple. Ripple will then send that 100 million to Coinbase, who will sell US dollars and buy XRP. That XRP will get sent to Bitso in Mexico. The XRP gets sold, Mexico peso is bought, and MGI's client gets the Mexican peso in their bank account. Now, that can all happen very, very quick indeed, much less than an hour, where if you were doing it through Swift, it could take you 10 or more days, right? Just hope everyone understands that. Right, so this is the use case of XRP, and it's pretty amazing, right? B2 payments, we know we've got Coil, we've got micropayments, bridge currency, store of value, medium exchange, sourcing global utilities, smart contracts, micropayments, instant cross-border settlements, security settlements, okay? Amazing. So also this month, Ripple put on more and more clients, okay? Interbank and VTSCPS, a Peruvian provider of financial services, and another bank, cross-border payment services, all sorts of things. So, again, they're putting on more and more clients, right? They also put on Cross River. They put on, a Pakistani bank as well. So, it just goes on and on and on, okay? They also bought, and I think this is very interesting, an Iceland crypto trading firm, which is an exchange as well. And I wonder why they've done that, which I found very interesting, because they said they wanted to expand their operations in Europe, but why in Iceland? I mean, obviously the crypto legislation in Iceland is very good, but they wanted to increase their on-demand liquidity. And pretty much they've now bought this exchange that's going to use XRP in full, okay? And they believe that's going to expand into Europe, which I think is fantastic. Very, very interesting indeed. So next one, R3 uses XRP for their quarter settlement. What else we got here? Also the flows between the US and the Philippines, transfers to Mexico, the Philippines, was at record levels in September, which is fantastic. It's more business for them. Plus, they put on another 2 clients, Daiwa and Sumitomo Mitsui Trust Bank, okay? They're very, very large operations in Japan. And also, SBI are now going to pay their clients in XRP dividends, which I think is fantastic. Plus, they also put on BitPay. Now, BitPay is global and it has a lot of merchants around the world. So that's a big story in itself. The list goes on and on and on, guys. Another thing we know, Bank of America rolled out its RTP payments product to be rolled out over the year. And they've been trialling XCurrent for some time. And now they're also going to utilize XRP to allow companies to pay employees instantly. I mean, this is huge stuff. XRP should not be at 27 cents. The crypto market has, stones in its head. It must be, mad, because seriously, I know we're all mad, me included, but seriously, it should not be at 27 cents, seriously. So not only that, we had CoinField announce that they're going to operate an XRP validator. And then we had this other story that, there's this other story about the Ripple, there's a Pakistani bank as well, but also about Samsung and their native wallet, mobile wallet. They've come on as well in 47 different countries. As even mentioned that XRP, by David Schwartz, something about collateralized stable coin, a new idea for XRP, which could be interesting. And again, as I mentioned, the Fazal Bank, Pakistan. Now, what's interesting about Pakistan is it's a very, very big country and it has 197 million people, which I'm surprised by how big that is. Now, Ripple are in the Middle East, and the Middle East has huge numbers of clients, but a very, very, very poor banking system. Okay, but all clients have phones. It's like Africa. Very poor banking system, underbanked, but everyone has a mobile phone. Amazing. Okay, they also put on another bank, South Korea, Shinhan Bank, and they've got a population in South Korea of 51 mil. We're talking big numbers here. To top this off, the Gates Foundation came out and said they want to do more with Ripple, okay, towards their technology, innovation, and field of payments, right? They see that Ripple is a lovely fit for them in terms of coil and the implementation of micropayments for the third world, okay? And if that is not enough, I don't know what is, because seriously, this is a company that is running while the rest of the crypto currency market is sitting on its knees, cross-legged. And honestly, the price of XRP should not be where it is. It should be a lot higher than where it is. Again, this is education only. I'm not telling you to buy it or whatever. This is all education. I'm not a financial advisor. It's education only. But yeah, I think it's like that guy said, Christopher Orton, it is an opportunity of a lifetime. That's what he said, and I tend to agree with him. Anyway, guys, please do look after yourself. Please be kind to yourself, importantly. Be kind to your parents if they're still around. Mine aren't, and I miss them every day. Please be kind to your friends and family, your animals, your putty cats. Thank you, Matthew, for adopting that beautiful dog, Tallulah. And please do be kind to people in the world generally, just to make this a better place. Thank you all, and sorry, I always go over 30 minutes and I try to cut it down. Sorry, guys. Bye, darlings. Look after yourselves.